These are some Dinar Guru updates, starting off with Yada question. So I'm hearing the lower notes still not out yet. How does this timing line up with what we want? Does it happen before or after or the same time if rates are already up and waiting? Yada says when the rate is released, the lower denoms will have value and release afterwards, almost simultaneously. All right, Frank 26, Iraq boots on the ground report, Firefly. So far, we are not seeing the lower notes, but they talk to us about them every day. They talk to us about them and why we'll need them. Frank says they're talking to you about the lower notes and coins because they're about to show them to you next week or the week after. I believe your bank friend will show you something in the sense of pictures. Take as many pictures as you can. All right, Militiaman says Iraq is moving towards going into a market economy. It's quite obvious. Tensions are the trade lines between Egypt and Jordan because of the Red Sea. There's been some chaos going on with different factions disrupting trade. Iraq's development road project article quote, Iraq supports an alternative to the international transport lines that deliver goods from the east to the west. Militiaman says everything's coinciding at this time with the major international transport companies coming into play. Pimpy says you don't need to go to a redemption center. I bank out of Wells Fargo. I went in there, talked to my manager. He said this is if the exchange rate is very large, you end up making a lot of profit off it. All you got to do is call. Let me know when you come in or just walk in. Wave to me so I see you. You tell me that you're coming in to exchange your currency. We will go ahead, run it through the machine to make sure it's not counterfeit. Once we say it's all good, we deposit it directly into your account. Pimpy says they don't ask for a receipt. They don't ask where you got it from. They don't ask you about any of that. Sandy Ingram has an article quote, Iraq's central bank revokes Iran's Bank Melli operating license. Sandy Ingram says this article tells us the U.S. is serious about not allowing Iran to have access to U.S. dollars. It also tells us Iraq is serious about aligning with the U.S. Treasury Department to maintain access to over 100 billion U.S. dollars of its own money in the Federal Reserve. Claire has an article quote, Saleh, Iraq is experiencing high price stability and the decline of parallel market noise. Sampson's article quote, South Korea confirms the volume of trade exchange with Iraq is increasing as a result of security stability. Frank 26 has a Dallas Chase Bank story. The bank visitor says, today I get a call from a wealth manager at Fort Worth location I go to all the time. I talked to her about a year ago about the dinar and the dong. The first thing out of her mouth was about the foreign currency. I said, okay, have you heard anything? She said, no, but there's been rumblings I'm going to get with my higher ups. I thought it was really funny. The first thing out of her mouth was foreign currency. Frank says because she's heard something, she's not going to admit that to you. The bank visitor said, I said, do me a favor, find out what's going on if you can. She said, I've got your number. I'll give you a call. I've got a feeling from this lady, they've got some competition going on even within the banks themselves for client business. All right, Militiaman says the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad is amazing. The reason why, it's a building that's 104 acres, 43,660 square feet. It's huge. They're building a bigger one in Iraq, 4.5 million square feet of a building. You've got to go, that's a big building. Why would they be building a bigger one if we're leaving anytime soon? All right, Pimpy says, question about Pimpy's possible LOP theory. Quote, if what I understand you're saying, it's a LOP, 25,000 will be 25, right or wrong? Pimpy says a LOP is when you remove the zeros. Just like you pointed out, 25,000 dinar would be a 25 dinar. Yes, that would be correct. Lastly, I have Goldilocks with an article, quote, Vietnam's exports surged 42% in January. Quote, Vietnam's exports reached nearly US 33.6 billion in January, a 42% surge over the same period last year and the highest level since April 2022. The increase in their goods and services will begin to increase price pressures on their currency to meet these demands through digitized payment systems?